Hey guys, and welcome back to another DearPiggy JavaScript video. So in this video, we're going to be working more on switch functions. So we're going to actually be doing a build-up, so build-up part 1 and part 2. And basically what we're going to do is we are going to kind of mix things up with switch functions, do something a little bit more different, and then, in my opinion, do it a little bit more advanced, but still using the things that we've learned before. Right, so let's jump right in. The first thing that I kind of wanted to introduce was using switch functions with just any random variable, right? If you remember in our previous video, we used the date library for our switch functions, and then we passed in the parameter of the specific day, which was a number from 0 to 6, depending on what day it was. So now instead of doing that, we're going to actually try to see a different example, a different way to do that. And we're just going to use one simple variable. A couple other things you'll see here in this picture, we'll be using an alert function, which was, I think, at the very beginning of this course. So the alert function, default case break, that stuff's not new to us, and if statements, which was also pretty far at the beginning of this course, but we learned those as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So let me go to Replit, log into your account here, create a new REPL, HTML, CSS, JS, and create it. All right, so first things first, I'm going to come and bring my script tag down underneath here. Now, I realized that the date library might have been a little bit advanced for a beginner course and a little harder to understand. So right now, all we're going to do is we're going to create a variable. So variable, say, favorite instrument, right? So variable favorite instrument, we're playing an instrument here. And for now, let's go ahead and set this to piano. Let's just say this was my standard instrument at the very least. I played piano for 4 years, and unfortunately, it didn't really get anywhere for me. So that's one of the saddest things for me, but it's okay. I'm sure there's many of you who are talented in piano. So this is our variable, right? Now the next thing we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and create our switch function here. Now one of the most important things, and in my opinion, one of the harder things to understand from before, was the expression. Remember, the switch function looks something like this, where we have our expression and then we have our curly braces. So then we would have our cases and then defaults, right? Everything looks something like this. Now, in our expression, if you remember in our previous video, we used the getDay part, and now we're going to use faveinstrument. So now instead of checking the day, we're going to be checking the value of the favorite instrument. So say case 1, or not case 1, case piano. We would write an alert saying our favorite instrument, a favorite instrument is the piano. Now what this is saying, guys, and I really kind of want to bring this to your attention here because it's different from what we've been doing before. I've passed in the favorite instrument variable as our expression here. And so when we use the switch function, it's going to check the value of the variable that we created here. And since there can be so many different possible choices for the value of this variable, we have to give cases, right? Now in this case, our first case is piano. So we're saying if the value of favorite instrument is piano, then we're going to print out this alert that says our favorite instrument is the piano. Now, obviously, if I change this to viola, say, then this case would not work because well, the value of favorite instrument is not viola, is not piano, right? So let me change this back to piano for now, and let's keep on going with our switch function. So the other thing that I wanted to kind of review is this break keyword. Now the break keyword is so important and is often overlooked because, well, it's just one word, right? But this word is really important. In fact, it's what makes or breaks our switch function. So be sure to add in your break keyword there. So this is our case for piano. Now, for the sake of simplicity and time, I'm not going to go ahead and do any more cases, but we're going to go ahead and do our default case. And what default case means, remember guys, is what should happen if none of the cases above match what you're going for. So if I had case piano, viola, what are some other instruments? I'm blanking, cello. If none of the values match, so favorite instrument was not a piano, viola, or cello, then we would move on to default, which is be saying what should happen if we just stick with one default message to print out. So then we could say, sorry, we don't recognize your instrument. We don't recognize your instrument. Right, so semicolon. And remember, break in this case is optional because the default keyword is the last section of your switch statement. So whatever is the last section in your switch function does not need to have a break, but I'm putting it there just for good practice. Right, so let's run our program and let's see what happens. And so since I'm using alerts, well, I should have an alert pop up on my page, right? So run your function and we get our favorite instrument is the piano. And why does this work? This works because the value of favorite instrument is piano, so that matches perfectly with this first case. So then it follows the alert. Okay, so we kind of reviewed and brushed off the rust there for switch statements. And then now I want to go ahead and add an if statement in our default. So basically what we're going to do here is instead of giving one general alert for everything in default, I'm going to go ahead and use an if statement to add one more layer to our switch function. So let me write it out first and then we'll kind of talk about it from there. So we can say if fav instrument is equal to, in this case we can say viola, then go ahead and create an alert that says, we love playing the viola, right? So if you take a look here, guys, everything is sort of coming up as peeling back layers, right? So we're looking through our cases, and if none of the cases match, then we go to default. Now in default, we have another if statement, another layer to peel back. So if none of the cases match, go to default. And in default, if there's another parameter here, if this fruit is still apple, or in this case, if our instrument is viola, then we can give an alert instead of printing out the standard default statement. So in a way, this is kind of like creating another case. In my opinion, honestly, guys, instead of doing this, we should go ahead and create another case called viola, but just for the sake of practice, we're going to do it this way. So I just realized I should probably do double equals here. Go ahead, change your value here to viola, and then run your program. We see that it says we love playing the viola. So since it doesn't match the case, it went to default, and then it went into the if statement and realized that yes, favorite instrument was indeed viola. So then we went ahead and printed out that alert. So notice that when I press OK, here, hold on, let me run this again. Notice that when I press OK, it gives me another alert that says, sorry, we don't recognize your instrument. Now this is because we still have our alert here on the bottom. So it doesn't matter what happens in your if statement. As long as you have a break underneath here, it's going to break. It's going to it's going to come back and print out this alert statement. Now, I know I have a question here from some people, that said, what if I added my break statement somewhere else? What if I told it to break after the if statement? Now that is something worth trying, right? Go ahead, run your program. We love playing the viola. Okay. So see now, guys, we've gotten rid of this next alert because the break is essentially saying execute the code in the block and immediately exit. So basically by adding break here, we've said after you finish running this alert, get out of the entire switch function. So you don't need to run this alert anymore. So yeah, that was the first part of our build up. I say we did pretty good, right? The next part that I wanted to go to is just adding an if-else statement and another if in the else. So this looks very complicated, but again, it's kind of like peeling back layers in an onion, right? The first layer are our cases and our default. The second layer now is our first if. Now, we could add another one called else. So remember, if-else statements go hand in hand. So if it's not a viola, anything else? Right, now in anything else, instead of just printing this normal alert, because this is usually what we should do, instead of just printing out this alert that says we don't recognize your instrument, which if I change this to cello, would give me that error, or not error, alert, sorry, we don't recognize your instrument. Instead of saying that, we could get rid of it and add another layer, peel off another layer in our onion. Go ahead and create another if statement here. So if it's not a viola, then what else is it? Well, then if the favorite instrument is equal to a cello, then go ahead and create an alert saying, aha, so you play the cello. So you play the cello. Again, this is another layer from peeling back the onion, right? First layer was the case and the default. If that didn't work, then we went to the if statement, which was the viola. If that didn't work, we went to the if statement in the else section. Remember, else in this case is anything that's not equal to viola. So anything that's not equal to viola, well, there's so many different possibilities, right? And so in this case, we gave another case called cello. So now run your code. Remember, favorite instrument is still cello. And we get, aha, so you play the cello. Right? So I could do this one more time. Remember, if statements don't always have to be followed by an else. You could just leave an if statement by itself. So that's what we're doing right now. So now if favorite instrument is this time equal to flute, then go ahead and say, alert, we love flute players. So run your code this time and we see, aha, so you play the cello, right, because we didn't change the value of favorite instrument. Change it to flute and run your code. We love flute players. Perfect. So now we've peeled back 3 layers in our onion, right? But there's one thing that I wanted to do. And basically, let's go ahead and add breaks right here. So preparation for what we're about to do next. In this else statement, or no, after this else statement, but still in the default. So remember, still in the default, but outside of the else statement, do an alert. And this is the standard alert that is going to get printed out if it's not a viola, cello, or flute. Sorry, I'm not sure what you play. So now change your, we'll leave it at flute for now. Run your code, we'll see that it doesn't get affected. And another alert doesn't pop up because of our break keyword here. But if I change this to recorder, which I know is not an orchestra instrument, I have a funny story about that. Run your code and we get, sorry, I'm not sure about what you play. Because it checked, is it a piano? No. In the default statement, is it a viola? No. In the else statement, is it a cello? No. Is it a flute? Nope. And then it comes back out here and says, sorry, I'm not really sure what you play. Right, so this was our build up switch function video. This is one of the harder things in JavaScript, right? I'd say this is probably hovering on the edge of intermediate here, but I thought you guys would be smart enough to handle it. If you're confused, go ahead and email me. If you have any questions at all, just let me know. Watch it a couple times, and after a few times, I think that maybe you start to get it a little bit more. Right? So I believe this is the last video in our Intro to JavaScript course. Moving on, instead of just JavaScript, we'll combine JavaScript with many other things and just turn it into a web development course. So we'll have a new course about that probably in a few months, right? But starting in a couple of weeks, we'll be working on Java, which is another language. So go ahead and look out for those Java videos. Bye, guys.